Welcome back, everybody. Well, as you can see, new episode, Audi Rally car. We're back on it. Got my coffee, raring to go. All right, I'm gonna try and use some of the things that I learned from doing the sport. Looking back in like hindsight's 2020. Well, how are you gonna do that? Well, I said once in the videos, I think that I should have done from the front of the car backwards. And that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to see if I should make this thing go a little bit quicker. Depending on what I run into, but it should make it go faster, as in going right back, having everything match, then put it on the lift to do the suspension and all that stuff. So that's beside the point. First thing, let's come over here to the computer. Let me show you what the 10-valve rally cars had for an intake system, and I'll show you what I'm going to use to possibly, we're going to get close. It's not, the whole mantra of this thing is, okay, is it going to be serviceable? How it's going to be serviceable? And, and to make it somewhat look like it, I'm going to try. Let's see what we got with the junk stuff we have kicking around. So here, come on over here, take a look at this, and we will get to looking at what we're trying to do on the Audi. Here's the picture of the 10-valve rally motor. If you look at the intake manifold, because this is what we're concentrating on, the intake manifold for every single 10-valve turbocharged Audi road car was on the front of the motor, which was basically here with a yellow and looks like a black or blue tubes coming out. What they did on the rally car is they had to enter from the back like the 4000 does, the straight normally aspirated one. But they have a curved opening which goes straight in, so you have the pipe go in and it goes straight in and curves around into the intake manifold. Which is a fine design, What we're going to try, let me show you, let's open up the hood. I'm going to put, this is the stock intake manifold for 4000. We'll put that on and I'm going to show you my plans on what I want to do to make it kind of look like that, but it's not going to look like that. It's in, it's in the same vein. And it's saying, oh, it's just another replica. I figured, you know what? Let's make it so it's the easiest thing to maintain. That's my deal. So let's go underneath the hood and let me put this back on, and I will show you what I plan on doing. Here's the 4000 Quattro intake manifold. As you can see, it enters from the back. What would be an easy thing to do, because of course we're not going to do that, would be to take this throttle body off and turn it like this. Yes, it could be done, and it's a lot of welding and stuff like that. But if I'm going to go through all that welding, let me show you what my idea is. Yes, I know. Here, let me go grab it. Ta-da! More Eurovan parts. The only thing that really stinks is not the seat. I've used enough of the seat, so I might as well use more shit. All right, well, this is from a 2.5 Eurovan 10 valve. It does a couple of things for us. Okay, what does it do? What advantages of this, using this section right here, than using the 4000 Quattro section? Well, take a look at this. This is round, which means you can use a standard boost hose on it. On the 4000 Quattro, it's elongate, or oblong if you want to call that, or oval, so you have to use a Audi part. And those things are pretty much expensive and they won't really suit our application. All right, now, and if you take a look at a lot of the 20 valve stuff had the round stuff. The Quattros had the round one, but the 5000s had like a big oblong triangle looking thing, and those things are another thing. You don't want to have to buy a hose in order to make it work. So this is what I got, and this is, this will allow me to use a standard hose to go right on it, and it just makes everything a little bit easier. The second thing is, it has a provision right here, even though it's not on here, for a throttle position sensor. To me, the injection system that I kind of want to use in the very end dealing, not the injection system I want to start it with, but maybe in the end game, I'm always going to need a throttle position sensor, no matter what. So this gives us this provision, which we don't even have the ability to put it on the 4000 Quattro throttle body. So this is just a win-win all the way. So what do I got to do? Well, I got to first chop this portion off, and then we'll sit there and figure out where we want to put it on the 4000 Quattro, and then we will figure out how we're going to how can we mold them together. More aluminum welding. But let me get my stuff on, and so I can chop this up, and we can get this thing done. Well, the mouse is home. Now we're going to get a final position of where we're going to cut. I'm probably just going to leave it right in here and cut it because, yeah, it is, tacked in. Let me bring over the bench. I can start building the pieces to fill in all my gaps, and we'll get this all welded up. We can pull everything off and get it over there. now have an intake manifold. Will it work? No clue. Well, okay. Next thing is, we got to do the exhaust manifolds. And there's got to be a lot of things we have to consider when doing the exhaust manifolds. But first, let me first bring over the material and explain to you why I'm going to use it for the flanges. Because A, you cannot buy the flanges, you gotta have to make them. So, I'll show you what I got, and more recycling. So let's go over to the bench. Let me show you exactly what it is. This is what I'm going to use for the flanges for the exhaust manifold. You're probably saying, okay, it's just a piece of steel. Well, this is my theory behind this, and let me tell you where I got this. I got this from an old boiler a friend of mine had. I had to help him get it out of his basement, and I chopped it up and I got rid of all the stuff, except I saved this, the majority is steel out of it, and it's all 3/8 inch thick steel. And you're probably sitting there going, well, just a piece of steel, why did you save it, Because it's been heat cycled. It's been heat cycled, half a million times. Okay, just throwing it out there, but who knows? But seeing it was from it looked like it was from the 40s or 50s. I mean, it's been heat cycled a lot. So what does that tell me? It's a very stable piece of steel. And that way, I think, this is in my own mind and theory or whatever, I can't prove it, but I think this will resist warping, when I have it on, for the exhaust manifold. So what am I going to do? All I'm going to do is take the gaskets from the 10 valve, put them up, trace them out, and cut them out. That's all I'm going to do. So let me get right on to doing that, and that was my reasoning behind this piece of steel. Let's give it a shot. Here are all the blanks. I'm going to bring them over to the drill press, drill some holes so we can mount it to the head, and we can keep this trainer rolling. We now have the flanges all to the point where I want them to be. As you saw, I drilled holes and I just used the cutter to cut this out. I wanted it, very much inset because when I have it all together, then I'll match ports the gaskets, with a die grinder. Same thing with this. All I want was a rough hole in the center so I can get a die grinder in there and just start match porting it. So we have all of that stuff. Now, you're probably thinking, what are we going to use for the body of the actual manifold header, if you want to call it that? And the first thing is this. This right here is the downpipe 4000 Quattro. They use them on other ones, but I think there's Coupe GT, anything 5-cylinder, stuff like that, on the later models, 85 and above, I believe, 84, 85 and above. Not 100% sure, but that's pretty much what you got. And you have two different size pipes right here. You have a small one and you have two large ones. And I was hoping to use the large ones on the head. So I'm looking at it going, okay, this is not going to be that bad. So I took my caliper and went over and looked at these pipes. These pipes, what are they? 40, external diameter looks like it's 46 millimeters. So these are the flanges that we have. That's the biggest flange we can put on there. And it goes over the sides. So I'm sitting there going, well, we're not going to have that much flow in this motor, All right, well, what's the smaller pipe? It's limiting me, as in the amount of pipe I have. But I went there and I put the caliper like this. What do we got? We have, looks like 36 millimeters on this pipe on the external diameter. Brought it over to the flange, put it right here. It's like, oh, that's going to work just slick, And I think it's going to work out really, really well. But I only have like five of these pipes to make one full manifold, and I said, that's really cutting it tight. So I said, well, what do I have that I think would be the same size as this? Well, I went out here. Let me put this down. I went out to the trash box, and I came back with this. You're probably saying, what is that off of? This, I believe this was off of a 2000 Celica GT that I pulled apart, and I looked at, here's the caliper measurement right there for those pipes, and it's exactly the same. So I have a bunch of mandrel bends right here, and I'm looking at it going, hey, this thing might actually work. So I grabbed this from the pile. We're going to chop this up, chop up all the downpipes that I have that we can make into something, Let's go over to the car right now. Let me show you the turbo we're going to use and some of the goals that we want with this turbo. So let's go over there now. We're now looking at what we want to do for the exhaust manifold. We have the intake manifold up, and one of my considerations, what you're always trying to think of is I want to, is maintenance-wise. Now, if I ever need to pull the motor, I need to get the thing. I wanted it to drop out, but with this 10-valve motor having the intake and exhaust on the same exact side, I cannot drop it. So, seeing how I cannot drop it, straight out with the intake manifold on, I might as well make the intake manifold to be able to come off really quick, along with the turbo and exhaust manifold. You're probably sitting there going, okay. Well, if you remember the 10-valve manifolds, the turbos were terrible to get off. They're awful. There's stuff down inside there. You can't get wrenches in there. Right? I mean, it's just terrible, And they, it was just not. It was for packaging concerns, not for performance-wise. And the big thing is looking at it, and this is what got my knowledge going, is because when I started rallying an Escort Cosworth, it had quick release turbo, it had a whole bunch of things stuff that I've never even heard of. And I am just absolutely flabbergasted. So what do we got to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to build a turbo setup so we can pull the turbo right off. Then we can easily get at the manifold bolts and easily get at the intake manifold bolts so we can easily get them off. The biggest thing is, if they're going to be in the way, we might as well be able to get them off relatively quickly. And you're probably wondering, what am I going to use for a turbo? Well, let me show you. I got this. This right here is a XS Power T3 T4 hybrid. You find them on eBay for 150 bucks, and that's what this one is. I'm looking at it going, because I looked around going, you know what? I can cut the flange for a K26, and it'll be fine, But then you're stuck with having to use a lot of stuff that's specifically for the K26, and they were great when you could buy them for 50 bucks, used, because I had this one guy tell me when I was racing, when I raced Mount Washington, he did a lot with, he built this really crazy Quattro Scirocco type thing. Guy's name was Dan. Fantastic guy, real cool guy. And he was saying, he says, you know what? They did a lot of tests, and they said the one thing that the KKKs really didn't like to handle boost, but the Garretts did. You know, but the thing is, the KKKs, you can bloody throw dirt in the damn thing and they work. You know, they're a really rugged turbo. They're great for an application like a stock application. But for a rally application, there's a reason why Cosworth used Garretts, you know, and my Integrale has a Garrett, and my old Lotus Esprit and the R5 Turbo has Garretts. I mean, there's a reason why, you know, and they're an excellent turbo. And this is a copy of a 1980s Garrett turbo. It doesn't have all the fancy stuff on it, but whatever. But what it does have is the ability for me to use aftermarket stuff to make it very inexpensive. Plus, you put it right here, oh, it looks cool as shit. I mean, this looks really awesome. So, but what do we got to do? Well, we have to sit there and set this turbo up to make it so I can get like an impact gun, or an impact gun with an extension with maybe a universal, and just zip the turbo off, you know? And I'm going to slice it, and in the very, probably won't do it this episode, but down the road I'm going to slice it and show you how to make a quick release turbo really simple, really fast, you know? And it's really easy. I might do in this episode, I don't know, we'll see how long it lasts, but, or how long this exhaust manifold is going to take, because this is going to take a long, to me it's going to take a long time. But first, let me set this thing up. The main thing is, I got to set this up to where exactly it's going to be, and you have to look down and say, oh, okay, I can see all the bolts. I know I can get an extension down there and pull it off. We need the outlet of the turbo going past the intake manifold here. This is all going to be shielded. The thing is, you know, you're probably saying, well, geez, it's going to be here. There's going to be so much excess heat. Well, with the old turbos, they're right underneath the manifold, so the heat radiates directly into it. This, in theory, should have less of an effect on the manifold if I heat shield it correctly. Now, I'll have holes in the hood right here to allow this to dissipate out. Whether or not it's going to work is another thing. I do not know. I've always wanted to do this, and I'm sitting there going, you know what? I just think it would be absolutely cool to do, so you know what? I think I'm going to give it a shot. So let's... Let me go grip the flange. I want to bolt it to the turbo, and we'll set the turbo up on where we want it. And I'm going to make a so-called jig. Basically, I'm going to weld the stupid thing right to the chassis, and that's where my final end goal is. I'll pull them in, then we'll start working where everything's going to be. So let me go grab the flange, and let's start working with the turbo and trying to figure out where we're going to put it. Now that we've decided on what turbocharger we're going to use, you know, it's going to be a cheapo, and you know it's going to fail. What do we got to do? Well, my whole design philosophy, as before, is I need to get this thing off quickly, because I need to get it off quickly so I can service anything else that I need to do. And generally, you know, if you're in a rally, you know, the thing that will go will be the turbocharger. It won't be anything else generally. You know, if it's a major component, even, you know, turbochargers generally don't go anyway. You know, it's pretty rare, but that's beside the point. Now, how am I going to fit this to the car? Because I need it in a couple of specific places in relationship to the intake manifold and motor. It has to have clearance, and it has to be in the right plane. So the first thing I got to look at is, the main thing is the exhaust. That is the main thing. I want a straight out pipe. So what I do, I went and I grabbed a piece of exhaust tubing, tailpipe, and it just fits in here. And I mean, it gives me exactly the relationship of where the exhaust wants to go, straight out. So I take this, and I'll put it there, say, okay, yeah, straight out. It basically equidistant in between the manifold and the strut tower. And then I look at it going, all right, everything is set where I can actually get a ratchet, even a gun inside there to do it. Then I look at and I turn my intake, or my cold side, say, okay, it can go straight down there, it'll clear. All right, well, this is pretty much exactly where I want it. Next thing is, I'm an only person here. How am I gonna hold this? Well, I think I come up with a hillbilly way of doing it. Um, let's let me show you what I'm thinking of. All right. Let me go get this stuff and let me figure it out. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld a bracket onto the actual chassis, and that'll be the final resting place of this. That way, I can pull the turbocharger off, pull the intake manifold off, and build everything to that. At least that's what my plan is. Whether or not this will work, you know, you don't know. You just don't know. But I'll give it a shot. All right, let's move this thing over and let's see if I can actually make it work. One of the greatest things about putting those Jetta hinges in here, the thing goes straight up. I love it. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going to use the Hillbilly Method ratchet strap over a beam. Here's a pretty good place on where it's going to be. I'm trying to bring it over here to be in the middle of number 1 and number 5 and number 1 cylinders, because I'm trying to make it as closely how can I put this, equidistant, and I can I'm going to try and make equal length headers. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but we have it further away. It's right here, and it's away from the chassis pretty well. That's a good thing. So let me pull this off here. You can see here's the bolts. These are oversized bolts, what's going to be in there, but it's just like, now I know if I weld this plate to the chassis with a bracket like this right here, if I go down there and just weld it like that, and weld it on the other side with the same style of bracket or just another piece of steel, this is absolutely stationary where I want it, you know, after I put the pipe in. That way I can build everything to that flange without having the turbocharger in the way, and I can take this off, then go back and forth, back and forth. All right, let's start this long adventure of building this manifold. All right, our next problem is getting from here to here. So that's kind of hot. I had the flanges on there. I put them on there just to make sure to test fit them, you know, because you saw me pulling the manifold off. The biggest thing is, all right, this one's going to be fairly simple to come out and down and in. The big thing is just leaving clearance for the bolts. And you also have to remember these things come out like this, so we're going to have to come out fairly wide, you know, and back in. This one is going to be kind of, you know, it's going to be okay, but it's going to have to come down. This one especially is going to have to come down. You know, I think the first thing I'm going to have to do is just go cut up all the pipes and just see what I got. You know, because right now I don't know where things are going to go. So let me put a fresh disc in the grinder and let me cut up all the pipes and let's just see what we got. downpipe to cut up. That was a lot. But we have enough, I think we have enough pipe to actually do the header. I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to be close looking at it, but I'm not really sure. But, you know, you're probably wondering why I cut up all the other downpipe, you know, the entire, all the downpipes to pull out all the tubes. It's because of this. Where was it? Right here. See this? This is an exhaust gasket for a 3B or AAN 20 valve turbo. This are the big diameter pipes in the 4000 Quattro. If you take a look, the diameter is almost exact. Guess what's coming down the pike for the Sport and my other Quattro? Just saying. Right, now, let's put all the pipes together, let's bring it over to the car, and let's figure out, and let's see exactly what, you know, let's see if we have enough, and let's see if we can even do it, you know, so let's give it a shot. Here we are, we have all the materials for the exhaust manifold. We have the flanges for the bolt onto the head. That is the starting point. We have the flange that's going to be, the turbo is going to bolt onto. That's the end point. We have to get from here to there. All right. And you're probably saying, well, how many exhaust manifolds have you designed? Well, not very many. Not enough to actually know what I'm doing. But I'm just going to go on first principles. First principles. Here's the 4000 Quattro downpipe. What it is, it's the same diameter as the port, pretty much, a little bit bigger, but not, you know, not by much. What it is that I have this so I can go on to that, so I know I'm not going to restrict the amount of flow going through the pipe. If it's the same thing, it should be fine. Next thing is, we have to think about maintenance. How are we going to get this manifold off, and can we get it off? Let's just say if we had to have a service in 20 minutes. It's very unlikely, but we have to understand that. Now, what I have to do is look at the intake manifold also. The intake manifold, it uses these bolts right here. And I screw this in like this, you know, as in that's roughly where that bolt is going to be, where I need to get a socket on it. And generally, you're probably going to be using a 3/8 socket. This is a 13, and you know it's going to go right there. And this one's going to go right here for the manifold flange. So if I take a pipe like this is one of the silica pipes, and I put it right there, can I get this socket in there to get this straight off? Right there. And can I get this in here? You know, it's a little big, but it'll get there. It might need an extension, but the whole thing is you can do it, and it goes right onto it. One thing I want to use with this is just like, one thing I almost forgot. The Celica GTs, that's far as what I think of, the Celica GT headers, they're a little thinner than the 4000 Quattro downpipe. But that's, you know, it's really minute, so. But I just thought I'd let you know, if you cut them up and say, oh, wait a minute, they're not, no. The external diameter is exactly the same. The internal diameter, it's like the difference between like 95 or 120 wall, but I'm not sure what the wall thickness is. You know, it's 6 of one, it does the other for our purposes. Let's first start, we have to first start doing, let's say, the longest pipe we can, because the longest pipe is from cylinder 5 to the exhaust header. And I also have to use the flange to put that on there to see, I can't extend beyond where this gasket is going to be, because I want it to be exactly this diameter right here, because when I match pour everything, this is what I want. Now, on this run will give me my length run. Now, what does that mean? It means to me is that's the length that I have to make every other tube, because I don't want the pulses from the tubes counteracting each other. It's the reason why I'm not really a particularly fan of log manifolds. They're great if you have no room, you know. But I still under the stuff that Corky Bell did with the Renault 5s, you know, and how he designed the headers and how he designed the IMSA cars. So that's beside the point. You know, read his book. Fantastic. Let's get on to doing this. I got to, you know, the first thing is making the first cut and having it go around and making sure I can use, whether it's going to be a little bit tighter bend or a little bit longer bend. It's not, I don't really know yet, but let's first get this in so we can make this, how can I put this, all squared away, you know? Maybe I'm just, maybe, maybe I'm just stalling because I don't want to make the first cut in the first tack. But, all right, I got to do it. All right, let me just do this and we'll, you know, I'll run this through really quickly, hopefully, and then we'll come back and look at it. And then I'll probably pull the head off, bring it over to the bench and weld the rest of it up on the bench. But I need it all tacked in before I cut this all off and do all that fun stuff. So, all right, let's just do it. We have to give the pipe room right here. I got to cut right there to allow the other pipes to start making a collector to go in. Let me cut this stuff off, bring it over to the bench, and we'll finish up welding it. Intake manifolds on, exhaust manifolds on. I can get it every single bolt except for this one right here. I need a wobble extension. You know, that's just the way it is. It's not going to be bad. It depends on what type of bolts I use. I'm probably going to use a Ford bolt with a 10 millimeter head and that length, but I'm not really sure yet. The other ones over here, easily get to with like straight sockets. So we're not a problem there. Header's all on. I didn't weld up the flange, but let me put this back on the car to give you a good indication of what it actually is. And then we're going to end up the episode, and I'm going to give you the reason why. Because, yeah. All right. Let me just throw it on there. You got to get a kick out of it. Well, what do you think? I think it's cool. I mean, a cheap, eBay turbo on a bunch of old manifolds and downpipes cut up, and a couple of intake manifolds cut up, and hell, we almost have a rally set up. I think it's pretty cool. I really like it, and I just remember, nothing is that hard. You just have to sit there and look at it going, yeah, I can use that, and just throw the stuff together and see what happens. I think it came out really nice, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now I gotta make sure. What I forgot. Remember, I didn't weld up the exhaust flange on the turbo. On the header for the turbo, and there's a reason why. Remember, I said I wanted to use a quick release turbo. Kind of the reason why I'm using a Garrett T3, because I can chop them up. But this is the reason why. This is a Garrett T3 that was on my Escort Cosworth rally car. And as you can tell, take a look at this. These things are slotted. 3 bolt holes are slotted, and you have 1 stationary bolt hole. What it is that the Cosworth manifolds, especially the 4x4 manifolds, when they have these, you have 3 studs right here with nuts on top. And you have 1 bolt going in the hole that's not been slotted. What happens is, in order to get the thing out, you pull this 1 bolt straight out, you loosen those 3 studs, turn it, and pull it right out. It is the coolest thing. I love these things. And when I got this with my Escort, it's just like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Now, why didn't I use that flange? Because I'm using these M10 studs. And the bottom stud that turns into the flange, I want as much contact with threads as possible. Now, the bottom amount of threads, what I would need is about a 5/8 plate, as it says right here, in order for me to have full contact with the threads. So I need a 3.5 by 2.5, 5/8 plate, and I don't have anything like that. I got to go down to my friend's place and see if he has something in the scrap pile. But that's so I can get full thread contact, so when I loosen it up, it loosens it right up really fast. And it won't spin back out, which I don't want. But other than that, I'm just gonna copy that to the turbo, But that's pretty much it for this episode. I mean, I'm pretty happy, because I've always wanted to do this. I never knew how it was gonna work, but it did. And I'm so glad I broke that Toyota Celica, because that thing saved the day, that manifold. I bet you could do this entire thing with 2 Toyota Celica GT manifolds, and I wholeheartedly believe that, Other in your 1 Quattro downpipe, just in case you need an extension or something like that. But it all depends on how you do it. But remember, none of this stuff is hard. This is just cutting up and recycling just old garbage stuff that people were throwing away. Stock manifold, throw away. Stock downpipe, throw away. No, I am using this to the best of my ability, and hopefully it works. Whether or not it does is another thing. I mean, I still, when I do the flange, I still have to make the heat shield for the intake manifold. I have to make the mounts to support the turbo, because if you don't support a turbo, especially with a header, it's going to break, because it gets hot and it flexes and it'll crack, Other than that, thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate it. I hope you get a kick out of this, because I sure do. I think it's pretty neat. I'm not sure what we're going to do next. It's going to be somewhere in the front of the engine, because I'm moving from the front to the rear. And other than that, remember, you can do this. You can do this. I'm just a hillbilly out here in New Hampshire trying to put stuff together. And that's about it. Well, thank you very much for showing up, and I really appreciate it. Have a great day.